All right, welcome back. So I've been talking about the Arameans as nomads. The Arameans as nomads. No, something about these Israelites actually. Something about them, but it's very unique. There is no way you go today that you're not going to see the Israelites. No part of the continent, and you are not going to see the Israelites, the Hebrews. And wherever they go to, they actually succeed. They actually succeed. So this is it here. What was the origin? What is the origin of this thing? That is going to take us back to the Arameans as nomads. Arameans as nomads. Since we have been able to trace them back to the fact that they came, the admission of Arameans and the Urians constitutes their ancestry. So now let's see. And I told us in the previous lessons that these tribes, they all started as nomads, and those that practiced the nomadic life mostly were the Arameans, which we still find the nature or the characteristics in the present day Israelite, the Arameans. So now let's talk about them, the Arameans as nomads. So the biblical tradition in Genesis about the beginning of Israel as a people, now goes back to the nomadic stage of the Aramean tribe. For you to understand, to the history of the Israelite as recorded in the Bible can be traced back to the Arameans as nomads. So, and I told you that the Israelite that the Israelites, the Arameans broke into two parts. We have two parts of the Arameans. Some of them, that is at the migrating stage of their tribes out of Mesopotamia. So they broke into two parts. So now it is believed that one of these divisions, actually a group out of them, one of these divisions, the other one actually invaded Egypt. They invaded Egypt and they formed the Hyksos dynasty. That was around 1800 to 1600 BC. They formed their own dynasty there around 1800 to 1600 BC. So they moved down to Egypt to invade them. They invade them and rule over them. They called them the Hyksos dynasty. So they were later actually expelled out of the territory of the Egyptians when the Egyptians later got their independence. So that was one part. So however, on this note, so the early stage of the Hebrews started as being nomads. That is, they started as travelers, wanderers. As a matter of fact, before they even settled in Palestine, don't forget they moved in the wilderness for 40 years. Even before that, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, so they still move from one place to another, and wherever they get to, that's where they sleep. They move and they basically engage in agriculture, which is rearing of cattle. So now let's say example of nomadic natures. What are the nomadic natures we can find in the Israelites? So there are some nomadic nature that explain the nomadic life of the Arameans, which is the Hebrew. So which is one way or the other, which in one way or the other reflected in the formation of the Old Testament. It has reflection in the formation of the Old Testament, and these different shades them from the sedentary Palestine. So we differentiate them from the sedentary Palestine. So the first one is that now, as nomads, they exhibit what we call community soul. That is, they moved together in community. The concept of unity exists among the nomads, which you can even see in Saudi Arabia. If you study them, their nature, the concept of brotherhood, we are still going to get to know that. So as nomads, they actually exhibited that community soul, that is unity among them. So that is the practice of brotherhood. So they practice it. That is why we go to, as a matter of God told the Israelites that we should not forget when they were still wanderers, when they were still actually in the wilderness, in slavery, and as a result of that, they must be able to welcome people. That one aside, but on the part of them, Hebrews together, we are brothers. They actually perceive each other as brother. So that is why they cannot allow one of them to suffer in vain. That was what Moses did. I can say that was what Moses did, since he had realized that he was an Hebrew. So in Egypt, there was an Hebrew and one Egyptian that were fighting together. So because the other one was Hebrew, Moses has to actually defend the Hebrew guy by killing the other one. Do you understand? So that is it. They exhibit community. So the other one is that they also had common property still under unity. They have their property in common. Their property is in common. So no individual can actually claim that one property belongs to their own tribe. So they own their property in common. So and their entire wealth, all their wealth were labeled as the common property of the tribe. So that's one of their nature, their practices. Another practices is that they had no organized religion, like the sedentary Palestinians. They actually, by the time they settle down there, they have their own temples, they have their own scriptures, their sacrificial system, and all that. But it's on the part of the Arameans, they had no organized religion. That there is no any permanent place where they worship. There is no any permanent place, any permanent religious law guiding them, actually. So they had no organized religion. There was no organized religion. So that is, there was no spelled out liturgy. They had no spelled out liturgy at a given permanent shrine among them. So the deity they worship were those that were bound to the community they moved to. They moved to in an intimate relationship. So wherever they moved to, for instance, if Jacob got to Bethel, when they got to Bethel, he saw in his vision that some angels are coming, ascending and descending. As a result of that, by the time he woke up, he erected an altar there and called that place Bethel, that is the house of God. He called that place Bethel, and so on and so forth. So they just moved. They had no organized. They will still leave that place, go to another place, if they see another vision, so they will still form their their religious something there. So another thing is that the Arameans, they had no organized system of law, no permanent system of law, actually. No. So if there is any case of emergency, they have to actually apply judicial matter. So what did they do? They always set up what we call an ad hoc approach. That is a temporal legislative assembly. They will just quickly bring some committees, some councils that will actually address that issue. So after the issue, they will dissolve the committee. So there's no permanent law. They will just think, they will come up with, okay, what law can we apply to this problem that is going on? I'm just using this, I'm explaining this in a simple language so that we can all understand very well. So they had no organized law. And last one is that they all engage, they as well engage in agriculture. So basically rearing of cattle, and they also trade. They engage in trade. So they move from one place to another. So that is that about the Arameans as nomads. So, and all the characteristics can actually be found in the Hebrews since they came from them. Like I said, I started earlier that there's nowhere you go in the world today that you're not going to find the Hebrews. And whatever they are doing well. They are doing well. So, next one, I'm going to talk about the sedentary Palestine. Stay tuned.